Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Just going to give everyone a few minutes to join, get settled, and then we'll go ahead and get started. I see folks trickling in, so while we are waiting, why don't you go ahead and use the chat on the right-hand side of your screen. Let us know where you're joining from. It's always great to see where people are calling in from. So just go ahead and let us know. Use the chat on the right-hand side, and we will get started in just a minute. Don't be shy. Okay, awesome. Cool, North Carolina, Michigan, love it. London, other UK. Awesome. All right, well, just about a minute in, so I'll go ahead and get started. My name is Nicole Kaysen. I'm the event marketing specialist here at Consensus, and I'm very excited to welcome you to our webinar on the 2025 Sales Engineering Compensation and Workload Report. So this webinar is presented by Consensus. Consensus is the product experience platform that empowers sales teams to deliver interactive demos, engaging product tours, and immersive simulations, unlocking stakeholder insights, reducing friction in the sales cycle, and accelerating every deal. And you can learn more at goconsensus.com. And we are very excited to share that our new B2B buyer behavior report is here. We analyzed over 6 million buyer interactions to uncover how real B2B buyers actually engage, explore, and decide. And you can download the report. I will share the link, pin it in the chat in just a minute, but I highly recommend taking a look at it. It is very interesting. And I will give a quick plug for DemoFest X London. We will be in London on October 8th. If you can join us, that would be awesome. We had a great time in San Francisco and New York City earlier this year, and we are really excited to take the event across the pond. So you can register at demofest.com. I will also post the link in the chat, but hope you can join us for it. And now we can get into it. So I'd like to share, we encourage you to participate in today's webinar. Our speakers will answer any questions at the close of the event, but you are welcome to post your questions at any time through the Q&A box on the right side of your console. We also have some polling questions throughout this session, and you can find the polling questions also on the right-hand side of your screen. If at any time you're having technical difficulties, you can locate the little gear icon at the bottom of your screen, and you'll find some documents that will help you troubleshoot any problems. Oops. And now I would like to introduce our moderator for today's session, as well as our speakers. So Adam Freeman is the SVP of Global Partnerships and Alliances here at Consensus, and he is going to be chatting with Michelle Purdue, Saeed Noor, Taylor Fazio, and Malcolm Murphy. And they're going to be talking about the 2025 Sales Engineering and Compensation Workload Report. So with that, I'll turn the rest of the time over to you all.
Brilliant. So thank you so much for everyone joining us on this fantastic webinar where we're going to cover, it's the biggest, it's the best, it's the one that we all look forward to its release every year. And let me start by saying a massive thank you to everyone on this webinar who contributed, everyone who's watching on the post-record. Thank you for making this report what it is. And I want to thank my fellow panelists here who have kindly dedicated their experience, their wisdom. And there's one thing we could do here, right? We could work through all of the data, draw out a load of data and tell you what's already in the report. That is not what we are going to do today, my friends. What we are going to do is take some of the report highlights, and then we're going to help us create actions and takeaways from this webinar to give you some inspiration to go back to your teams, to go back to your organization, so that next year the data doesn't necessarily look the same, okay? Because we're in a profession that's advancing, I believe, faster than most other areas of sales, and it's a super exciting place to be. It's the best job in tech. I've always said that. I always believe it. So let's get into the data. So panelists, are we ready? Let's go. So let's get into the data. Let's go through these rubbish slides. So 621 respondents. Okay, I'm going to take you through the kind of mechanics of the report. Okay, this isn't a little report. We've got 621 people who volunteered information about the way they work, how they work, and what they're seeing in the world. The main thing to take away here is the majority of the results that you're seeing come from people who are located in the US, Canada, and UK. So if you're not in those regions, that's okay. It doesn't mean it's not relevant. It just means it could kind of lean that data set more to what we're seeing in those countries as well. And what I encourage is, if you know people outside of these areas next year, the diversity that's in this report is better than ever. Okay, it's never been this good, but it could be better. So let's promote this report next year. The more responses we get, the better the efficacy, we can help. So I want to start with the most emotive subject in the report. Okay, it's the earnings. It's what we all leave at the end of the month with. It's what hits our bank account. For some people, it's an indication of their worth to an organization as well, and we've got to be respectful of that. But the report this year told us, okay, the average SE, the earnings are up based on previous years, and we're seeing SEs earn on average about $123,000. Feel free to convert into your local currency at the prevailing rate on the date of watching this webinar, with an additional $43,000 in comp. Okay, so a pretty well-paid profession by all accounts. And I want to draw your attention to the right-hand side, and you'll see a bullet point, second one down. I've highlighted this one because it really stood out for me as a kind of, I was reading a report that 30% of people, when asked about what would you improve in work-life balance, were saying offering the same perks and incentives as a sales role. And that was up on previous years. And that kind of moved towards commercialization of the SE profession. And so I'm going to propose an opening question to the panel here, which are some of the specific examples of perks and incentives that you guys have seen impact positively that SE engagement and motivation, because it's not always just about money. What else have you seen? So Michelle, I'm going to hand over the microphone to you to take this away first, please.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. So this is a great topic to talk about because it's not always about dollars and cents. Yes, we love our dollars and cents, but it's also being recognized for the job that we do. So we put in a lot of hard work. So having the same recognition around the organization is really important to my team at Momentous because it's a team sport, right? We all know that from an SE perspective when we put our SE hats on. It's a team sport. So it's not just the salesperson driving it home. It's not just our services organizations. It's not just the SE. It's everybody together. So including the SE in that recognition is a big part of that, not just the salesperson. So if the salesperson is doing great, that means the SE did their job. That means everybody did their job. So include them in that recognition when you're doing that across the board. And that's become a real push that we've done at Momentous for the solutions engineering team to have that recognition.
Really good insights. I know, Malcolm, you're someone I've networked with kind of outside of these kind of webinars back when I was a pre-sales leader. You've always had some fantastic insights in this area. So is there anything you'd share from this perspective?
Yeah, two things. I definitely want to agree with the point about ensuring the recognition. And I think about it maybe the inverse of the way the question's phrased here. I think the absence of recognition is a huge demotivator. I think and we've all seen it. I've seen it many, many times where people are being praised publicly and there's someone sitting in the back quietly seething and their colleagues are looking at them going, why isn't your name up there? So as sales engineering leaders, one of the things you can definitely do behind the scenes before that slide gets presented, advocate for the team. But specifically what they contributed is like just, hey, and Bob did a great job. He did a great demo, isn't it? It's what did Bob do and get specific. The more specific you can get, the better it works. I wouldn't call this a perk or an incentive, but what really, really impacts SE engagement and motivation is agency and control. If I know that the work I'm being asked to do, because let's face it, every sales engineer out there today has got more than 40 hours worth of work they could be doing. What motivates positively, what I've found that works is when people know that the majority of that work, of the majority of what they're being asked to do is meaningful. So make sure, again, as sales engineering leaders, make sure it's meaningful work that's going across your team's desk. Make sure they've got agency and control over how they do that work. And that's incredibly valuable.
Brilliant. I'm going to, before I go to Saeed in a second, I'm going to ask you in the chat, have you got examples of where you've maybe had some non-compensation reward or incentive that's really made you feel that kind of reward, that agency, those kind of things that Malcolm's just rightly pointed out. So Saeed, can I come to you? Any particular perks or incentives you've seen land really, really well, or ways of motivating beyond just the regular comp?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question that you ask. And whilst I've got many situations and scenarios that we've faced over the years, two things really stand out for me. And the first is a story I'm going to share with you about spiffs. So many years ago, the sales teams had spiffs to effectively change behavior across the sales team in a certain direction. I think it was pipeline generation or something along the lines of that. And often the SE would be used in the endeavors of increasing pipeline, for example, and then ignored when it came to the spiff reward, which then demotivates and takes away from that engagement and that motivation. And in our scenario, in our example, that was quite obvious, and the sales teams saw that. And a couple of different sales teams specifically brought in their own SE into their spiff reward, which happened to be a team reward going to Barcelona for one of the teams, which then really changed the mindset of the business from the ground up rather than in the boardrooms from managers. So we've actually, in that sense, had it easy to change the mindset and ensure that SEs are thought proactively beforehand rather than just an afterthought. So yeah, that's worked for us at Mimecast.
Love that angle about proactivity and not being reactive to when people complain, thinking about ahead of time, like what's the outcome we're trying to do, and therefore what do we do? And I mean, I've seen that applied with things like President's Club places and things like that. But Taylor, I'm going to come to you, the lady with the best bookcase in all of SE. What would you add to this conversation?
So it's funny you say President's Club, because that is the first thing I was going to say, followed by spiffs. But we'd like to take a little bit of a twist to it, and there's a lot outside of the control of an SE if it's just purely based on revenue or close-won deals. So we utilize both of these to also reinforce positive behavior. So a couple of things that we look for with, we call it a pre-sales contest, but also for President's Club qualification is targeted demos and discovery. Closed-won deals, obviously, because we are sales, but also sending consensus videos is a big part of it, getting out of the unqualified deals and sending those in behalf of unqualified deals. And then data hygiene is so important. So we utilize all of that, and we've seen a huge impact on the motivation and engagement, because there's a little bit of competition there that I think the team strives for.
Yeah, such a great answer. I just want to thank everyone for those wonderful kind of insights, because it's such a reflection sometimes on your company value as well, what you're prepared to kind of offer employees beyond just compensation and things. And Taylor, I want to capture something you said there. You said we're part of the sales team, and I think that's a real reflection. That's what we're seeing in the data as we move through the report this year. But everyone on this call, it's not just us doing the talking. It's not just us doing the thinking. Okay, you've all spent time to be here, and I'm ever so sorry if you watch on record because you don't get to join in this fun. But I've got the wonderful Nicole, who introduced us, is going to kind of launch a poll here. And one of the things we want to ask you all, okay, is some data beyond the report. Okay, so which of the following perks do you believe is most effective in boosting that engagement and motivation that we've seen? So you'll see up on the, I don't know which way I'm going to point because I'm mirroring my camera, but up in the top corner where the chat function is, you'll see a polls tab. It's got a little kind of red circle on it, and you can vote there. Okay, and we're going to kind of share the results in the chat after you've voted while we move on to the next. So please do press that poll tab, join in the conversation, and let's make this as interactive as it can be, because it's a long time to sit and listen to my northern tones if you don't join in the conversation and vote. So let's move on to the next area. One of the things that I personally have seen, I've always felt in my career, I had people at the organisation I was at before that championed, that allowed me that room to grow and promote from within. And I think that's really reflected in the data set this year. What I would say at individual SE level, 65% of those people are hired from another organisation. Yet 65%, and that is a quirk of the report, okay, it's not a typo, 65% of all managers are promoted from within the same company. So what that tells us is that at an IC level, we're buying that talent in from external, but then once that talent's here, we are prepared to promote 2/3 of the time into management positions. So I think really great progress in terms of opportunity to progress within your chosen field. And the question I'm going to ask all of you here, panelists, is how can organizations create and foster that stronger sense of career growth and mobility within the SE teams? And it's just increasing the retention and reducing the reliance on those external hires. We've seen it protect culture, we see it protect things like that. But I'm going to come to you, Taylor, if I can first on this, because you're a company I've worked with for a little while. You've got a great culture there. But any ideas in this area you'd contribute?
Yeah, I think it's really important to have an open line of communication and give people an opportunity to let you know what it is that they're interested in and where they want to go. And then keeping an open mind and helping foster that. I have seen individuals want to move up into leadership. I've seen them want to excel as an individual contributor. And there's a lot of individuals I've seen that want to go explore other areas of the company, specifically sales. So providing them with that opportunity to have that mobility, I think really increases that retention.
Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic points. And Saeed, I'm going to come to you if I can next, but any advice in this area from you?
Yeah, so this is actually really a pertinent question for the UK today, actually. Most of the UK schools are doing work experience for students in year 10 now, and I've got my daughter here in the office this week. I think to foster that strong sense of career growth, leaders, us managers within companies need to provide opportunity for people to learn, to express what they want, and furthermore, do the job without them having the role. So I've got a couple of scenarios and examples within my team right now. One of the SEs currently has an interest in product marketing. So we've said, right, go and do some of the work, go and create some of the content. As an SE what you want, you're the customer. So create the content that you might create if you get the job. So it puts that individual in that position of doing the role, and the managers or the decision makers in that team can see the work from that individual before they make any hiring choices. It's not a guarantee, but it's an opportunity. And that's what I think we are responsible for, providing that chance to our members of staff.
Such a great way of looking at it. I always thought, if you kind of create and celebrate people going into these other roles, and you can celebrate success and not kind of hold people where they don't want to be, that's some of the best talent acquisition you can ever make, is kind of allowing talent to flourish. And you hit on that, Taylor, as well. But Michelle, I'm going to come to you next, if I can, please, just to add your thoughts.
Yeah, I agree with everything. If that employee is in a state where they do want to grow, we also have to meet them where they're at. We don't always have employees that want to be a supervisor, manager, go and be the CIO. So we need to assess where they're at first, at least in my view, because I have a couple on my team that are like, no, I love this job. I love being an SE. I've done my experience in the past. I'm happy where I'm at. Let me know if I can help. I'll help onboard. So we work on the skills that they want to hone in on and develop, but they're not interested in being a supervisor or helping out other teams or growing in the company or other companies. They are great SEs, and that's what they're happy doing. So we also need to foster that level as well, because it's not always about advancement.
Yeah, Michelle, it's such good points, and you got me thinking back from when I used to run a team, and that kind of readiness to be promoted, and that kind of self-calibration of, am I ready and do I want this, versus am I really ready and set up for success? And I've heard of other leaders promoting people and giving them opportunity because they asked for it, but if they're not ready, are you really setting that employee up for success? So
it's okay. It's okay to not be ready, and normalize that it's okay if you're not ready. Let's work on why you're not ready. And if you're not, great. If you are, great. And being okay with either response.
Yeah.
So.
And spoiler alert, before I come to Malcolm, if you are an IC on this and frustrated that you're not getting into leadership, let me tell you something. The best bit of advice I can ever tell you, you will miss doing a demo more than you even realize, okay? But best bit of the job, and Malcolm will tell you, anyone on this panel will tell you, when you don't get to demo as much, do you miss it? So here's a man who's done many a demo. Malcolm, what can you add on your thoughts here, please?
So I think obviously the point around, you need, as an organization, as a leader, it's all about what the frontline leaders are doing. Organizations kind of can't do anything. It's first line managers, and I think that's the key point. If you're a first line manager here, you have a lot of control over how satisfied your team are, and a dominant factor over their retention. I think organizations that have the recognition that the career trajectory is separate for individual contributors and managers. Not everybody wants to go into management, so figure out, and individual contributors then within the SE organization or cross-functionally going into different roles. I agree with Michelle, but I'm going to disagree a little bit, or the point I would make is, even if you're meeting someone where they're at, and this is a really good point, because it's easy to forget about those people who just like doing the job and don't, quote, have any aspirations. But the point I'll make is, the job changes. The bar raises each year. So even for and with those people, there's new skills that need to get developed. You need to keep sharpening your saw. You need to keep doing the hours on the practice court. Who knew 5 years ago that video content creation was going to be a critical skill for a sales engineer, right? And I take the view there's like a half-life of knowledge. Every 3 years, I probably need to refresh what I know, even about my own product, let alone about the state of the art elsewhere. So it's my takeaway would be, it's all about the manager and that conversation you're having with your team member. And even for the people who, quote, don't want to do anything different, they still do. You still have to keep working on yourself, and you have to provide the support for people to learn more and do more.
So, such great points. I mean, some of the SEs at the start of the career, when I used to kind of coach and mentor people, whether in SE or out, I used to suggest maybe rewriting your CV now and again, just holding yourself accountable to your personal development. And, would you employ that person, at your stage of growth? Would you want to be a teammate with that person, but holding yourself accountable to your development, as well as it's just someone else's responsibility to develop me? That's how you become one of those highly mobile people that can hit their goals. So let's do another poll question. Fantastic insights there, panelists. Thank you so much. Really working you guys hard today with these questions. But poll question, so we want to know from you. How can organizations foster that stronger sense of career growth and internal mobility for their SEs to increase that retention and reduce the reliance on going externally? So how can you be the problem to the talent gap within your organization is really what we're asking. So I'm going to leave that open. Remember, poll tab up at the top corner. I'm probably pointing the wrong way again, but poll tab up in the top corner. Nicole will share those results as we go on. That poll will stay open as we move to the next question, because time's pressing and we've got a lot to get through. And it leads very nicely into this topic of burnout. I think sometimes this is used incorrectly. Okay, SE can be a high pressure job. Okay, it's you're at the spearhead of the revenue engine, and a lot of quality revenue, high quality revenue, comes through an SE org. A great SE org is such a phenomenal tool within the organization. And why we maybe feel that pressure is that our skill set as SE people is pulled across the funnel and post sale like never before. And that's for a variety of reasons. But we are in demand. And you look there, burnout increases noticeably for SEs managing teams of 6+ AEs. And when that ratio goes beyond that, we do notice an increase in burnout. And I want to ask the panelists here, what strategies have you used to manage workloads and prevent burnout for SE? So very, very practical here, very real time. And while we're answering this, I really want you to think about, if you're attending this webinar, drop something in the chat here. What personal things have you done that have managed this? Because on a human level, I think this is one of the most important questions we're going to answer today. So I'm going to come to you first, Saeed, if I can. Obviously, your work experience, year 10 student, probably isn't going to feel this and might not be relevant here to feel that burnout. But what strategies have you used to manage that workload and prevent burnout here?
You'll be surprised. I'm getting her to come into the office 5 days a week, so burnout is real. But no, that aside, in my world, so my real life example that relates to this is probably in SMB. I've got one SC supporting arguably up to 16 people. Given 8 of them are overlays, so it could be a 1 to 8. You could see it as a 1 to 8, but it's still quite high. And I think we often forget, and the saying goes, you manage up, you manage down, but many of us forget to manage sideways. And what I mean by that is your counterparts. So for me, it's making sure that I'm speaking to the sales managers that are supporting those sales teams and putting the demand on RSEs, making sure I set the right boundaries with those managers first and foremost, and have exclusions to what is within our remit and what's not in our remit. Now, I think everyone on this call will agree to the following statement, that sales engineers are often seen as the catch-all for the whole business. Whether it's auditing that comes in and you need to present what the company does, or whether it's something else, it always is the catch-all. So it's ensuring that you have those boundaries to prevent that scope creep, in a different sense of the term, occurring to your team, and ensuring that they are empowered, and I'm sure others will talk about that too, to say no and to hold their ground.
Brilliant. Michelle, I'm going to come to you next, if I can, please. Your thoughts in this?
Yeah, so there's been some notes in the chat about just managing your SE times. We do it through some calendar management tools where there's expectations. You have to do this X amount of days ahead of a demo request, things of that nature. But there is always that additional pressure of, hey, I just need this because the customer, they're desperate, they're ready to sign, and you get that additional pressure on all of our teams. My team actually balances. We've created a really good kind of volley across the globe, where if one team member is strapped for days, and they'll reach out to their counterparts in the UK or Asia and say, hey, can you take this one? I'll take this one. And they volley demos back and forth so we can accommodate as much as possible. And it also creates more of that team bond internally. So creating that, and then if that doesn't work, then it comes to me, and then I get the pleasure of doing a demo actually every now and then. But it creates that team culture. And sometimes the answer is, I can't do it right now, but I can do it in 3 days. So I've really empowered the team to answer no, but I can't do it right now, but I can do it in 3 days. So setting the expectation up with their counterparts, whether it be sales, services, internal comms, things like that, really setting that up with whomever is asking the question. I can't answer you right now, but I'd be happy to in 3 hours. So setting the expectation has really helped my team manage their workload.
Brilliant. And Malcolm, before I come to you, I'm just going to call out a couple of the kind of comments that have been made, because I think they're worthy. I mean, Oliver, so calendar management and strict rules on AEs and how they engage, absolutely 100%. I've seen one here from David Smith that I really want to call out, which is encouraging people to leave technology alone and really giving the mind that rest when you are away, be away. And I think that's a really good sign of a really high quality team, when you can have that time away and know that you're not going to kind of be necessarily needed in that level. It just gives the brain time to relax and recover, and then come back, and you're a much more productive employee. So thank you for taking the time to write in the chat. But Malcolm, what would you add?
I feel I'm hesitant with the first one. I've got 2 things I want to say. I'm hesitant for the first one, but I'm going to have to do it because it's a strategy I have used. Deploy demo automation. It was when I joined Mimecast, it became very clear it was one of the top priorities we needed to do, because we had an increasing workload, and the rate of increase of workload was greater than the rate of increase of team members. We had way more work to do than we had people to do it, and we were stretched very, very thin. And deploying demo automation technology helped that enormously. Maybe that's a medium to long-term solution. A short-term solution, I come back to what I said before, and it's a little bit of what's been going on in the chat. Give the teams agency. right? So the workload, like, I'm going to make this statement, and I don't believe anybody has a problem working long hours. I think particularly sales engineers were used to doing it. Everyone loves the job, right? What causes that's not the issue. What causes burnout is working on futile things. It's working on unqualified things. It's doing another Hail Mary, etc., etc., etc. If you can, and rules of engagement can manage that to a certain extent, but salespeople are paid to get around rules. They're paid to make people do things for them. So giving your sales engineers the agency to be able to control to a certain extent what they do and don't do, and then have their back when the conflict happens, because conflict will happen, right? That works. People, you avoid burnout when they're working on meaningful work. And I think it's less about volume and more about making sure the meaningful stuff goes across their desk.
Wonderful. Really, really useful tips. And Taylor, what would you add here?
I think everybody else kind of covered most of it, but looking at my notes, the one other thing that we've done is utilized asset libraries for making it easier for the SEs to do their job without having to take on the mental burden of creating demos or creating materials to support what they're trying to do. So we've created a variety of assets that people can go and leverage. And if they need to, there's an entire team that will build out more things. So if they find themselves often saying, imagine with me, or imagine if you will, they can go to that team and they'll help create that. So we can just show it instead of saying it. But otherwise, I agree with the rest of my panelists. It's about saying no and setting boundaries and making sure that we provide people with the tools necessary and make them feel that they're a respected part of the sales process.
Yeah, wonderful insights. So, you know the drill now. It's a poll. It's the third time we've done this. It's not new. I'm still going to say it again. Go to the poll tab, okay? Have an opinion, have a voice. Use that polls tab and make your vote. And we're going to move on to the next area because we are fast going through time. It's flown. I've just looked. We're 32 minutes in, but we're bang on. For something I'm running, we're bang on time because they won't invite me back if I don't keep us to time. So let's move on. I mentioned at the start about burnout and why we believe burnout possibly is becoming a focus within these reports. It's because the SE skill set is in demand across that full funnel. And so we're seeing here that SEs are in demand across the full life cycle, from post-customer sale as well as in the sales cycle. And 70% of all sales deals are requiring pre-sales support. That's a phenomenal amount when you think of all the sales that go through a business. And it really emphasizes the impact a really wonderful SE team brings to the organization when you're touching 70% of all revenue that goes through. And so, panelist question. I would like to know from you, and I'm really interested in your answers here. I'm annoyingly curious, but how pre-sales can partner better and more strategically, and I use that word deliberately, across the departments that we all have to work with now to drive revenue and boost customer impact as well as revenue. So I'm going to come to you first, Malcolm, if I can, please, on this.
Yeah, so I think my bias here is very much towards demand generation. I think as a pre-sales leader, what the relationship between pre-sales leadership and marketing, local marketing, demand generation is key. I think the information that and the skill set that sales engineers have can be deployed really effectively in demand generation. And I think that's also a development opportunity for a lot of sales engineers. So it ties into something we talked about earlier. Not every sales engineer, particularly day one, is going to be great at that, particularly one-to-many demand generation type skill set. But it's definitely something to aspire to. And I think that's a place where pre-sales can offer a lot to the organization in demand generation.
Absolutely. Great points. That's a man with a lot of experience of doing that, sharing that kind of wisdom there. But Taylor, I'm not going to leave you to last this time. I'm going to let you go second if that's okay, and you can share your ideas in this area.
Sure. As Saeed mentioned earlier, we tend to be the center of a lot of individuals coming to us for different things. So I think it's just being really intentional with how we strategically partner with the department. So we are the voice of the customer for marketing, making sure we share the things that we hear in sales conversations, so that the messaging we're sending out resonates. It's about making sure on the post-sales side that we are providing notes and anything that's unique. So when we go through implementation, we don't have any gotchas. And with CSMs to make sure that the customer feels really supported, but that CSM is confident to answer questions of the technology maybe they don't know. So we provide a little extra support there. So it's just about communicating and making sure that we help the other teams be successful. So we're taking a little less of that on ourselves.
Yeah, love that kind of win together mentality. That's something that we kind of profess here within our four walls at Consensus. There's a lot of us who've even been in pre-sales. I was demonstrating this week, right? And I work in partnerships and help run Europe, but I still did a demo this week. I still can now and again. So Saeed, I'm going to come to you if I can, please. Any kind of tips here for working with the other functions in the business?
Yeah, so great question, and it's starting to make me think. There's a few examples that I can possibly share with you. One that sticks in my mind the most is probably an engagement that we had with engineering, and effectively where it's born, the idea or the initiative was born from was when there was new rules and regulations that came out in the industry that required customers to have a certain piece of technology. And whilst as sales engineers, we're able to see what those new things are that's coming out in the industry, and we know what type of data that we have within the organization, we can then connect those dots in order to then find that data and say, okay, well, how many of our customers have this configuration, for example? We can then allow the business to understand where the new opportunities might be for revenue growth. So it's really, from a strategic standpoint, it's ensuring that you're speaking with your engineering team who has access to that deep level data on your customers, understanding what's happening in the industry, and then being that almost cog in the wheel, or the two parts of the wheel, and you're connecting the two dots to ensure that you have a smooth process in place in order to not leave anything on the table.
Yeah, I say great points, and it kind of links to what Olivia in the chat's talking about here, which is just knowing your product manager and being able to bring them into custom meetings to respond to those deep question roadmap. That just builds so much trust as well. That just brings so much visibility to where you're going because customers invest in us. I love that point. Thank you for sharing, Olivia. But Michelle, do you want to bring us home on this comment, please?
Yeah, I would say just a couple points, like making sure that the pre-sales person is in the room. Are you in the right conversations internally? Because are you in the go-to-market calls? Are you in communication calls with your marketing team where that perspective may not be represented, where that SE kind of is the glue between all the other departments in the middle, where their hands are stretched across? So I would say one important point to focus on is, are you in the right conversations? So us as a leadership team, we need to make sure we're in the right conversations and appropriately in the right conversations where our team needs to be and have their value and viewpoint heard.
Yeah. Wonderful points. So everyone, you know how this works. There's another poll. I'm going to say it again. It's the fourth time we've done it. Use the polls tab, have your say, and Nicole will share those insights as we move through, which is just giving all of you an extra layer of analytics and insights beyond just reading the report. So it's a bit of a reward for you for turning up and sharing your time with us here, your precious time. But we're really asking about how those pre-sales teams can partner more effectively with a defined range of outcomes. But keep buoyant in the chat, keep talking to us, and we've got 2 more areas to cover, so we are going to move at pace. And it's something that I feel very passionate about this time, and hopefully some of you do. I can see Malcolm grinning like a Cheshire cat at this question and this data point, but long demo times, right? Our expectation of time and how long we're prepared to wait on a buyer's side has got a massive disconnect from what we can serve as a revenue organization. And I say that deliberately. It's not just an SE problem, it's anyone serving that customer. And I don't know, it brings me a lot of joy in our project to say that most customers, the vast majority, 89%, quick math, are waiting over 2 days to get a demo, to just see something. And you've got that customer in love with your product, come through a website. They've hit that big button on your website saying request a demo. And then what? 2 days go by, nothing happens. Okay, let's not pretend it doesn't happen. We all know it does. And again, drop in the chat what you think your current kind of time is waiting demos here. But I'm going to move this to the panel now very quickly. And you're on a consensus webinar. These people here know what they're talking about when it comes to demo automation. Okay, it wouldn't be that if we didn't kind of help you go on this journey. But we really want to put a spin on this question, and how you and your team have leveraged demo automation and technology to reduce that time that your buyers and your customers, because your customer of today is your buyer of tomorrow, don't forget that. How have you reduced that wait time leveraging demo automation for the win? So Malcolm, you were grinning too strongly there. I am going to come to you first. I'm going to pick on you. What do you think? What do you think you can offer in this area?
So I think you almost need to distinguish between two types of demo, right? There's the introductory, I'm exploring what you can do, show me something, right? And I can create a library of those things and I can get those out to you quickly. And then there's the downstream, okay, I'm interested in X, Y, and Z. I've got these use cases, really walk me through that. So the first one, I think, get that automated, because I think that's the one where you've got the issue there. I don't think anybody has an issue waiting a few days, even a week, for me to build something that is particularly attuned to well-stated needs. What I think is a problem is I just want to see and get a look and feel and just figure it out, and time kills deals, etc., etc., etc. That's where we can use the automation. That's where we do use the automation technology. I've got a sniff of interest. I'll use the automation technology to get you sight of what it can do. Then it lets us take a conversation forward.
Yeah, and Malcolm, what a great point, because that gives you such a unique data point to whether you should be doing that second demo in your world there and advancing it as well. Michelle, I'm going to come to you next if I can. Leveraging demo automation and lead times. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so we've had consensus for just over a year, but we've actually included pieces in our KPIs for the SE team and things of that nature, because it has helped us. A unique aspect is decrease SE demos, which was a goal because we were upwards of 1,000 a year for a team of 8. So yeah, so we're cranking them out, and we're like, okay, we've hit our max capacity. We need to do something here, and so it decreased our harbor tours, if you will, and allowed us to DQ faster, to get content and updates to our sales teams faster. So we've actually seen a decrease in the SE demos. We have a 58% view rate right now on our consensus content that we publish. And our SE demos that are being delivered have a higher ACV value that's been tied to them. So it's allowed the SE demos to really, really increase on that value and an expansion of what they're offering, rather than saying, okay, here's this, click through. Okay, we'll dig into more next time. So it allowed us to get the noise out of our systems and really focus in on our skill sets of being solutions engineers or pre-sales, whatever your title is in your organization. But it allowed us to focus in on what we were, and it didn't detract from the need of a solutions engineer. And that was a big thing that helped us. And we made sure to focus that it's not going to take away an SE's job. It's allowing us to do our jobs. It's allowing us to focus in on the content and what we love focusing in on.
I just want to call out before I come to you, Taylor. There's a comment in the chat from Marcia, and feel free, any panelists have to talk to reference this. But what do you think of online demos and introductions from a BDR standpoint? It comes up in probably every customer interaction I have with our customers, because guess what? I talk to our customers. I make sure we've got the voice of the customer in these four walls, which we're very proactive with. But every single customer, if they've not already done it, is talking about ungated content on the website as a marketing tool. And you think how that radically changes the way a buyer buys in this data. It's an instant demo on demand, and it's people are seen brave enough, they seem bold enough, and I think their content now is good enough and mature enough, because we know what works and what doesn't, to be able to democratize that level of data online. So I think that's a really, really great observation in the chat. And Marcia, thank you for bringing that question up. But Taylor, if I can come to you, please, your thoughts in this area.
Of course. And I'll be quick this time since we're running out of time. But I think we utilize it a lot to minimize the need for meetings. And so we can focus on high qualified demos, but also to fill the time or to stay relevant in the customer's inbox. A lot of times without it, we spend too much time, or the customer spends not enough time hearing about us. So just staying relevant in their inbox and allowing them to buy the way they want to buy, which tends to be without us in the room. We're just enabling them to do that.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And Saeed, do you want to kind of round off this question before we move on to our last one?
Sure, perfect. So I'll share a use case with you. Internally, we have a deadline of October to change every customer's package to a new package. And we're talking about a customer size of about 5,000 customers. We've got about 5 to 10 people in that team. It's impossible to communicate that out to everyone manually or via email. We have to use something like consensus. Without it, it's just not possible to deliver the right information to all of those customers in time for them to make a decision and sign up on the new packages. So that's a use case, real life use case, where we're using demo automation to get that message across to our customers.
Yeah. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic observation. So let's move on to our poll question. So at the minute, do you and your teams leverage demo automation today? It's okay. I know there's people on this webinar that don't currently. I know there's people out there that still don't believe in it. That's okay too. But are you leveraging this strategy? You've heard from the panelists here, and connect with them on LinkedIn, right? Don't just take our word for it. Go and connect with people on LinkedIn and be annoyingly curious in this area. And while you're answering that question, I'm going to ask you to think about as well, I always talk to customers about, would you buy from you the way you sell? If you were waiting 2 days plus to buy software from you, which is what the data tells us, would you want to buy that way? And do more of what makes you say yes to that question and do less of what makes you say no, and I guarantee you have better business outcomes. So let's move on while you answer that poll to our final area. Panelists, I'm going to be really sad when this finishes. I've enjoyed listening to you all. I've learned an awful lot, but unqualified demos. We talk about it a lot. It does eat time. And Michelle, I have no idea how your team pumped out 1,000 demos with 8 people. That is kind of superhero, the like kind of Marvel's Avenger level stuff going on in your team there. But unqualified demos are really eating our time. And we're seeing that SEs, the data's telling us the high impact activities, what we perceive as high impact activities on our side of the fence. So things like demos and discovery, they are key high impact items. And they do take up the majority of time, but we still see so much unqualified demo time eating up into our available time that we can serve our customers and our buyers. And so the question here for the panelists, what is the most effective way for sales and pre-sales teams to align on qualification and reduce that wasted, valuable SE time? So I'm going to come to you, Taylor, if I can first, to kick us off on this question, please.
Sure. I really think it comes down to just having a really solid relationship between the SE and the sales individual. I think once you have that solid relationship with that trust and respect in there, you can have the open and honest conversations. You can talk about things quickly and identify or address pain not pain points, wrong, but concerns in this case, so that we can either get out of the deal because it's a waste of time, or get the appropriate parties involved so that we're going forward on a qualified deal.
Yeah, absolutely superb. And Michelle, what would you add in this area?
Yeah, sometimes I simulate the SEN salesperson, whether it's a new account executive or an existing account, because both sides of the funnel, right? So I equate them to like a SEAL team. Like, you need to get in there, get what you need to do, talk about what needs to be talked out. Don't fluff it. Like, we don't need to hash through, do I need to click here? Do I need to click there? That shouldn't be what you're talking through when you're going through that. What package are we presenting? What questions do you still have coming out of that? What would you like me to push in on? Where do you want to do this? So it should be an even exchange where they can depend on each other. As Taylor mentioned, it should be a partnership. It should be whomever is leading that call, because it should always be the salesperson. They should be leading it and managing that call. The SE is just that supplemental material and providing that powerful content and guide. But it should be like a SEAL team. You're a basketball team. Take any sports analogy, really, for those sports fans. But go in as a team, and then you'll seem as a united front to that customer as well. So it will translate.
Yeah, and it's it's no harm being if you're a part of the selling team, which you are, and that came up earlier.
Yeah.
It's okay to disagree. It's okay to have healthy disagreement. I don't see this deal the same way you do, quota carrying person who's influenced by that, and protect your sales team as well. Be their kind of bodyguard. Say, I think we're getting involved in a deal that I don't see the way you see, and talk about it, because maybe you're wrong, maybe they're wrong, but someone's wrong. So
exactly.
Excellent points, Michelle. Saeed, can I come to you on this question, please?
Yeah. So for me, it's about the pre-calls, and just being obsessed with having a pre-call before the actual call with the customer to ensure that you and your co-seller or your co-pilot are on the same page, and subtly challenge them on what they're bringing to you as qualification. That's the other major tip that I'd be giving. Once you start to challenge them on what they're bringing, there's an argument to say they're not going to bring that type of deal to you the next time, and they'll bring it. Hopefully, it'll be a bit more qualified. So yeah, those pre-calls is my top tip.
Yeah, wonderful. Like, really, really practical. And I suppose templating that as well, Saeed, I can just ask you one more question. Do you have a template? Do you have an agenda that meeting would typically follow?
Absolutely. We internally follow MedPick, so that's the broad outline of that template. But again, it's using that and what works for you and your co-pilot in that engagement.
Brilliant. Thank you for answering that. So finally, Malcolm, I'm going to come to you on this kind of closing comments on this topic, please.
Yeah, and I have an answer for the individual contributors on the call and an answer for the sales engineering leaders.
Oh, nice.
So for the individual contributors, I'm going to back up what Sai said, and I'm going to be really specific. The question you can ask is, when you're with someone that wants you to spend an hour or 30 minutes of your time in support of an opportunity, so, okay, what is the specific and unique thing that you need me to do on this call? And if there's an answer to that question, great, it's qualified. Doesn't matter. And if the answer is, oh well, they might ask a technical question and I'd like you to be there to be ready, then you have a different answer about whether it's qualified. So specific and unique value that someone wants you to add. And if you get into the habit of asking that question, you will reduce wasted time for sure. For the leaders on the call, I think the most effective way to align on qualification and time usage is to align on the objectives and the outcomes. So where sales engineering is a service center to sales, and if we have the mindset of sales is our customer, no. A better way of thinking about it is, and people may have heard me use this analogy before, pilot and co-pilot. We're both flying the plane. We're both taking off, flying and landing. We're both getting to the same destination. We have different roles in the flight, but we're equally engaged in the outcome. And that mindset peers engaged in an outcome, different roles, but same outcome. If you can align on objectives and outcome and move away from a customer supplier type mentality, that really works as well. Individual contributors, you can't control that. The sales engineering leaders, that if you can get that institutionalized in your organization, the qualification alignment takes care of itself.
Absolutely. Brilliant comments. And so we're coming to our last poll. I know, don't cry. We'll be back again with another webinar. We'll give you more polls, but let's answer this one. Let's enjoy the moment, be present. So go to that poll tab, answer that question, which is how can sales and SE teams better align on qualification? And maybe our panelists' answer have influenced how you would answer that question. That's okay. That's what we want to create. But let's kind of close this webinar out now. And there's a QR code on the screen there. You can scan that and get a copy of this report. And just before Nicole comes on, I will ask you all, if you're in region or if you're able to travel, DemoFest London, I've seen a first cut of the kind of things we're going to cover. It's going to be phenomenal. It is going to be the biggest, the best demo fest we've ever put on. We are committed to that. There's going to be a lot of fun. So please do go and sign up if you're in London, if you're in the area, or you can make it, then please do. We welcome you with open arms. And I'm led to believe there's going to be an excellent swag there, as always, as well. But Nicole, have I missed anything? Did I cover off, apart from just to say to our amazing panelists, just a huge, huge, huge thank you for sharing your experience, your wisdom, and your time with us. We really do appreciate you. And to everyone in the chat who's been buoyant, thank you ever so much. Nicole, take us home.
That was perfect. And thank you to Adam for leading such a wonderful conversation. That was great. We do have a few minutes left, so if anyone does have any lingering questions, please feel free to throw it in the Q&A. We can definitely answer those. This session was recorded. We will be sharing it via email, so you can rewatch it. I can share it with friends, with colleagues. If any questions come up then, feel free to reach out to us. But it doesn't seem like any questions are coming through. You guys just covered everything so wonderfully. So again, yeah, just thank you to our panelists. Really appreciate it. Thank you to Adam. Thank you to everyone who attended today. Really, really great stuff. So I hope everyone has a great rest of your day, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.